Welcome to 13 Minutes of Gig News in 13 minutes or less. All right, guys, we're going to jump right in. First thing, there is a lot of news, but I'm going to touch on some things that we haven't talked about this week yet. So a lot going on. Some of it will be independent contractor based as well, traditional, as well as it applies to the gig economy though. So first of all, the Ghost Menu Massacre. So finally, Uber Eats has removed 8,000 ghost kitchens in the past 2 weeks from their platform. So what they're doing is they're going through, and a lot of these ghost kitchens are legitimate to run, but as we've noticed, places like Denny's and other like major chains have 2 to 3 to 4 sometimes ghost kitchens running out of there with fake names. Like, for example, we have Chuck E. Cheese. Okay, not my favorite pizza, and I don't think many people's favorite out there. So what have they done? They have Chuck E. Cheese, but they also have a ghost brand that calls it a different pizza, but it's coming out of the same kitchen. So what they're doing is, if you're running like Denny's had like 2 or 3 running out of there, so they're really buckling down. They're trying to make it just Denny's. Okay, like quit running another 2 or 3. You have one business. It's, if I order a grilled cheese from Denny's, from this, from that, from the 3 running out of there, it's the same grilled cheese sandwich. So you can't have it from 3 restaurants coming out of the same kitchen. That's not even bad business. That's dishonest, disingenuous. That's just across the board, should not be acceptable. And finally, Uber Eats is cracking down on it. DoorDash is not yet. And I want to point that out. DoorDash is not doing a thing about this yet. And again, DoorDash has the market share, as we know, of the delivery space. So not often do I do this, but kudos to Uber for doing this and buckling down on this a bit, because these ghost kitchens are a joke. And really, it makes the platforms look bad too. Because if I'm a customer and I want to order food from Denny's, and I do, but then if I don't want to order Denny's and I think, oh, I'm going to get a grilled cheese from this place instead, but really it's just Denny's, that's a very dishonest, disingenuous business model. So therefore, I am glad they're doing it. I'm stoked to hear about this. The next thing, this is going to be a little bit of a bite for everybody, but so we've talked about independent contractorship versus W-2 and how safe is the W-2. These days, if you go back 10, 20 years, a W-2 was a much safer position than it is now. And again, as I always tell everybody, independent contractor work is not for everybody, but it does make up about a third, almost 30% of America's workforce is an independent contractor, self-employed, freelancer, business owner. So what's going on right now with UPS and Roadie? Roadie is an independent contractor app. UPS is a unionized model. UPS is going on strike, and if you understand the union model, if you work for a union position and they go on strike, you have to go on strike. It's not like you get to go, I'm going to bow out of that strike. I really need the money. You don't even get the choice to be a line crosser. You don't get to earn until the strike's over. And this is my problem with unions. Unions should be, at best, it should be an opt-in model. Yes, I want to be part of the union. I'm fine with that. If every business in this country had an option to be in the union or not, I'm fine with that. Because I already know, I've done all types of work, salary, hourly, everything. And I'm now an independent contractor because I get it. So if I was given that option on any form, I'm going to say, no, I'm not giving unions my money so that they can decide how and when I'm going to work. No. If things go bad at a job or with a client, obviously the best thing to do is to part ways. I mean, I don't know. There's times when a union can help, but I think that these unions really ride on the past. And when I'm talking about the past, I'm talking about the 50s in the auto industry and the 60s and stuff. It really these days, what does a union do other than stick its hand in your pocket and pull money out? It's not doing much for you. And if it is, please put in the comments what you paying into a union has done for you in the past 10 years. Because I'm sure there are some cases, but go ahead, and I would love to see the stories of how a union benefited you exactly. But I mean, be specific. Don't say, yeah, I'm pro-union and I think it's great. I mean, like, give me the story. Give me the story on how paying union dues for 10 years benefited you. Because I'd like to do the math and see if it really did benefit you. But this is getting ridiculous. So UPS is going to be striking. So what did Roadie do? So Roadie is owned by UPS, right? So Roadie now has block segments to take, like a VHO, or even like Curry route runners or things like that. Like, now they don't have to bow down to the strike because they have Roadie, and they'll be able to push more work out onto Roadie. And what does that do to the W-2 workers? It leaves them striking with nowhere to go. So they could be striking for a while. What are their unions going to do? Are their unions going to say, well, we need to go back to work or you're not going to get things delivered? Really? Because Roadie has a ton of workers on that app. They can just start dumping the blocks out to that. So the W-2 people will get screwed in the meantime. I mean, we're talking at least weeks without pay. So again, I'm not dissing on a W-2 model, but no W-2 person should diss on an independent contractor model. This country's moving ahead a little bit, and a W-2 is, maybe we just need one overall type hybrids in between everything now, because the old W-2 is as wrong as classifying app-based gig workers as traditional ICs. There's a lot of confusion going on, and there's a lot of state governments trying to make solutions that are awful. And here we go. I mean, we're going to get into some, you guys. So my friend and counterpart that I've had on the podcast many times, Mike Harubi, he's stepping out and speaking on behalf of the Rhode Island horror right now. And the Rhode Island horror is that they're making every independent contractor, this includes app-based delivery and rideshare drivers, you now have to file a form yearly. You have to pay a yearly fee. And you have to be in a database that's searchable with your phone number and your address, and with a deep dive, your social security number. So it's breaking every privacy law that there is. So to be an independent contractor in Rhode Island now, you're falling under all these crazy classifications. And we start looking at different punishable crimes. So like now, if you're improperly classified as independent contractor, the person who's contracting you the work faces a $1,500 to $5,000 fine and or 90 days in jail. So here's my thing. Like, if you're thinking, but I'm the worker, that wouldn't fall on me. Yeah, but you're the worker, so it's going to scare the heck out of the people who want to hire you. So it's putting a whole new burden on people to like examine and say, wait a minute, is this one of those independent contractor things that's going to get me in trouble? So think of it like AB5, only times 5. I mean, it's going to scare everybody. And Mike did his math, 170,000 independent contractors, app-based too, in Rhode Island. And if you guys do that math, it's around 35% of the state is an independent contractor, traditional and app-based. So we're looking at some horror stories. I know that, it depends on how you take this story, but there were, the Uber drivers had a win this week in California. I don't know if I classify it as a win, because even though I like to see things moving forward, I feel like this isn't really going to help that much. But now independent contractors can file a claim against the apps and take them to court. But here's the problem, you guys. The problem is that how are you going to pay for this? Most independent contractors, and especially app-based ones, do you have $5 to $10 grand to put down on a lawyer? Because they're not going to take your cases pro bono. And you can only represent yourself to a certain level. At some point, you're going to realize you're up against 4 or 5 real attorneys who will just knock you right out of the gate. So it's like, do you really want to put money in that and file all your documents yourself and go through that in California? To me, like, we're not solving the big problem. We're just creating more. And we're going to be facing a lot more states as we near October. October 1st, the rule change goes into effect. Obviously, new Rhode Island is already using the rule change, by the way, what I just referred to. And all of the links will be in the show notes here to these articles so you guys can read about them. The construction industry in Rhode Island is going to be devastated. And I'm going to put that specific article link below too, because you guys can read about it. It's going to scare every person in construction out of the industry. And there is no way to W-2 the construction industry. I mean, there are some positions in construction that are W-2, but you can't make everybody be a W-2. You're going to lose the people who actually do the work too. So you're not going to have people to find to do it. And you're going to be too afraid to do it because of the fines and the threat of imprisonment. My God. I mean, this country seriously needs to pull it together and to start working together. You know, we have two sides of the aisle, and they really need to start working together. All we ever see is lawsuits and arguments. We need to start finding some solutions because we're coming down to the wire on this stuff. And this is why, whether you are attending in person, and everybody is welcome, whether you are attending in person or whether you can't. And if you can't, it will be live streamed on this channel. August 5th, Denver, Colorado, Wash Park Grill, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Stephanie Vigil, House Representative in Colorado, and many other people will be discussing how to proceed forward with some legislation that actually protects us and kind of puts a few things in place without setting like amounts. I think when you set the amount, you're really in for some trouble. But we're going to talk about this, and we're going to hope to get this out nationwide because other states need to be looking at this type of stuff. Our legislators, our lawmakers do not understand what we do. It's become very clear to me. And I've talked to a few now. They really have no clue what we're doing. So with that said, next week's podcast that drops on Tuesday, don't miss it. Rideshare Rodeo podcast on all podcast players. And that's 13 minutes of news in just under 13 minutes. Peace.